Hello, and welcome to Senior Art Strokes. I'm Angel Mercado. Today we're going to be exploring something new. If you've been following my channel, you have noticed I've been using nothing but charcoal pencil or charcoal sticks. But now I think it's time to move on into something a little bit different, and it's the graphite pencil. And here, now you're going to notice on the graphite pencil, you're going to get a finer line. And graphite pencils come in different hardness, from hard to soft. Uh, you have H and B pencils with numbers, and of course H with numbers too. H means they're hard, it's a hard graphite. And what it means on the H, you're going to be doing a lot lighter markings, lines on the paper compared to the B pencils where they will be much darker since then there's a softer graphite. On H pencils, the higher the number goes on the H pencils, the lighter the markings. On the B, the opposite spectrum, the higher the number goes, the darker it will be the line on the paper. Okay? You will start using the H pencils at the beginning, very light. Always start very light. You don't want to put too much pressure on them. That way you don't have to erase constantly if you make mistakes, and you're not going to be damaging the paper, because once then you damage the paper, as I'm going to show you in some of these exercises, it's just nothing you can do. You pretty much have to get a new piece of paper and start all over again. So just relax, get your hands loose like this, hold the pencil loose, and don't put a lot of pressure on the paper. I hope you're going to enjoy this following exercise. We're going to be just exercise. We're not going to focus too much on doing a sketch per se, because if you concentrate too much on a sketch, you're going to, chances are you're going to quit experimenting or trying to really practice on how to use these pencils. Please support my channel by giving me a like, by subscribing. I have some other great tutorials for you, the beginner. For you, the person who just retired, has some extra time now, maybe you always been wanting to do this and now is the time, check them out. These are all geared to help you, the beginner, get into this beautiful world of sketching. It's so nice. It just fills you up. It just you're never get bored. You're always going to come up with ideas, looking at different things, and experimenting. That is the key to it. So, I hope you're going to enjoy the exercises, practice as much as you can, and enjoy the process. You know, if you want to get into drawing, you have to enjoy the process of drawing, and this is one of them. So, I will see you soon, and thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting my channel. Well, welcome back, and now we're going to go into the practical, the exercise part. Let's talk about the pencils. Here I have an HB pencil. We're going to be using a 2B pencil, a 4B pencil, and a 6B pencil. Also, I like to use a pencil extender. This will save you a lot of money in the long run. If you do a lot of sketching, you can put your pencil in there, tighten it, and then you can hold it from the back and start getting creating a lot of free movements with your hands. So that's what's nice about having these extensions, because they can save you tons of money in the long run. Look, you see how tiny this one is? Impossible if I could do this by holding by itself, but if I put it in here, I can still use it. I can still use it to write things, but this one just doesn't have too much lead exposed, so for me it doesn't work quite that much, but I like to keep this just to show people how useful and how much you can save with these little pencil extenders. Another thing about the pencils, I always like to sharpen them by hand. okay, always by hand, because I can expose a lot more lead than if I sharpen it by with the sharpener, pencil sharpener. And once I have enough lead exposed, I like to draw over sandpaper, this 150 grit, and I keep on turning them just to make them even and flat. That way I can sketch with them on the side, okay, and have a lot smoother lines. So that is about that. And now we're going to start see what we can do with these pencils. First of all, let's see what kind of lines we can make with the pencil, what kind of tones. Okay, this is the HB. I'm going to write down HB. Oh, one thing. When I hold my pencil, I like to hold it like this, okay? Like this, and sketch with it. Also, from at the beginning, I like to hold it from way back far, the farthest I can. That way I have more arm movement when I'm drawing, okay? I'm not restricted to this writing style. Then does two things. One thing, it digs into the paper like this. That can be a very hard, difficult line to erase. If you want to erase it, you want to get rid of that line. And the other one, you might damage the paper when you go just with the tip like this, okay? So it's a lot nicer to hold the the pencil, I'm sorry, from the back and hold it like this. That way you get a lot more arm movement. Think about like from your elbow to the tip of the pencil is just one solid piece. This piece doesn't move. Okay, you have less moving parts. All of the movement comes from the shoulders and from the elbows. And this one doesn't move unless, of course, if I'm doing more detailed work where I will move my hands a little closer to the middle of the pencil and start doing, more detailed work. That way, I can maybe move more my wrist a little bit, but very minor, and be more accurate. But at the beginning, you want to be loose, okay? You want to be loose, you want to be free. So let's see what kind of marks we can do. This is my first pass, and I'm just laying the pencil down on the paper and applying very little pressure, okay? That's my HB. I'm going to go now with my 2B. Oh, and let me do a few lines here. That way you can see when with my first pass how light I can get. Okay, this is just almost for you to see, and later on you'll see why they're so practical to be light-handed. Now we're going to have the 2B. Same thing. I'm just going to pretty much lay the pencil on the paper and just let it do its thing. I'm not applying much pressure at all. Very light. Okay, and let's do some lines. There we go. Now we're going to go with the 4B. Same thing, no pressure whatsoever, just laying it and just moving it back and forth. Okay, and some lines. Now the 6B is I have a 9B I seldom use, but 6B seems to be I don't really need to go any higher than this with this pencil because I can get pretty dark with this 6B. Now some lines. And as you can see, it starts getting a little bit light, darker and darker. Here I think I apply a little more pressure on the 2B, that's why it looks a little bit darker than the 4B. Now, I forgot to mention, when it comes to the letters, every time you have an H and a number, the higher the number goes, the lighter the pencil is going to be. On B, the higher the number goes, the darker it's going to be because the lead is softer. H is for hard, B is for softer. So that's how you get this gradation of tone. Now I'm going to go back to the HB, and this time I'm going to apply a little more pressure than I did on the first time. And we'll see if we can get a little bit darker. You can see the HB, you can get quite a bit darker tone just by applying a little more pressure to it. And the paper, line work, there. Now we go back to the 2B, and again I'm going to apply a little more pressure, and not a lot. I'm still being pretty light. Okay, and some lines. Okay, now we have the 4B, and the same way I'm going to start just applying just a little bit more pressure than I did before, and you can start seeing the difference of how many tones you can get with one pencil just by changing the amount of pressure you add to the paper. And my 6B, a little bit more, and some lines. So here you can see the difference of how it's getting a little bit darker each time. Now for my last pass, I'm going to go with the HB, and this time I'm going to put a little more pressure than I did before. And you can see how much darker I can get just by changing the pressure. Pretty light, medium, darker. Same thing with my lines. Look how I can get a lot pretty dark with my lines. And that still is not putting a lot of pressure on the paper. My 2B will go, and I will start doing the same thing. Just this time I just apply more pressure to it. Okay, and my lines. Now we go to the 4B. And lines. And the 6B. You can see it's quite a bit darker. And some lines there. Now, how do I achieve something very dark tone? Let's get back to the HB. We can go this cross hashing. We go across the last one. I'm going to do it right in here. I'm going to go only halfway down. That way you can see the difference. Now we go with the 2B. Halfway down. The 4B. And we go with the 6B. And the pressure that I'm applying here is the same pressure I applied on the last round. And if you think that's the darkest I can get a lot darker with the 6B by applying even more pressure yet. Okay, and I can go and if I want it darker, I can go another pass and pretty much get down to very dark. So that is how you can achieve different values just by changing your the pressure. Now, as you can see, we can achieve so many similar values with this. For instance, here and here, it's kind of similar. The same thing here. So that's why you don't really need to have that many pencils. What you need to practice is the amount of pressure you're using on the paper, okay? and that's how it's going to determine the value of the pencil. Now I want to show you what happens when we try to erase this. Okay, my HB on my first pass was very light, right? So I have a very light pass, and now I'm going to use my 2B, very light pass. My 4B, and then again very light pass there, and my 6B, now I'm going to get my eraser. I have a kneaded eraser here. This kneaded eraser, you need to stretch it in and out to make it soft. That's when it works best. And at the same time, this is how you clean. When you have a lot of, graphite in it, this is how they clean it. It kind of like disappears by magic. Okay, I'm going to create a tip, and I'm going to try to erase this. See how much I can erase out of the HB. As you can see, we can get pretty much down to the paper. 2B, same thing. Just by applying a little bit of pressure and not applying a lot of pressure, we can pretty much make those lines disappear. 4B, and I'm going only one time on each pass, you can see, and the 6B. There we go. So you can see then let me do the bottom part. There we go. You can see you can pretty much erase almost down to the paper. Now, why don't we want to do this? This is the HB. Just want to make sure. Now, let's say like most people, when they don't draw as much, they tend to go pretty hard on the paper. Okay, so that is as hard as I'm going to go. Same thing with the 2B. Okay, going very hard on the paper. The 4B, same way. Just putting a lot of pressure on the paper. And the 6B. So let's try to erase this and see how much we can erase out of them. It's always better to start with a clean tip of the eraser. And we're going to start erasing. There, you can see we leave some residue. Same thing with the 2B. It's just hard to get rid of what is underneath. The 4B. And the 6B. Let me reshape this. So I have a nice tip. There we go. And the 6B. So you can see how each time we're leaving a little bit more charcoal in the paper. So what will happen when we try to erase a line? I'm really putting pressure on these lines now. Okay, we bring the eraser and see how much we can erase. Also, I'm putting some pressure on the eraser just to try to erase as much as I can. There you go. So we still have, in all of them, we have marks, you see. Whereas here, Look what happened on this that I went very light. What happened here to these lines? You see the line disappear on the HB, on the 2B. It also disappears, it's almost gone. On the 4B, same thing. And let me switch a little bit here, there. And on the 6B, also disappears. So it does make a difference when you start a drawing. You want to start your drawing light. What happens if you're making a square, okay, and then all of a sudden you decide that shoot, that's not how I wanted. I wanted to have it here. Okay, so we want to change this line. We want to change this line there. So we're going to try to erase them. And you're going to notice, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to still have something underneath. It's not going to be a clean. It's not going to be a clean paper. So it's very important to start light. The other thing you can do, if you look at this. This is my HB, and look how dark I can go. But when you dig too much into the paper, okay, I'm going to go, just hold it just like we're writing. That's how I'm holding the pencil. I teach kids, and sometimes they start very heavy, and I'm always teaching them, start light. Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this kind of lines, okay? But it takes a little more skill to go a little bit lighter. You don't want to go dark right away at the beginning. What happens here? Let me erase this. You see the difference? Light and dark. Light pressure, too much pressure. You will not get rid of that. And here, see how much we can erase. Even when I go over and over with the HB, look at this. You see how much difficult it is to erase when you go too dark? Just like here. And the same continues. So that's my introduction. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will practice. The more you practice, remember, you want to hold the pencil like this, just make your lines flow, okay, and not do this. You don't want to do this because then you are stuck with those markings. So practice them, see what the pencil can do for you, and we'll go to the next video where I'm going to show you how we can apply this into a drawing, into a sketch. Give me a like if you enjoyed it, share it, check some of my other videos, and hopefully they will help you to get where you want to get as far as the drawings. Thank you, and I will see you next time.